Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to how to maximize your productivity while working from home or remote working. And if you're watching, if you're here live today, please let me know in the chat that you're here. Say hello. Tell me where you're from. And if you have some time, there are 2 polls that I'd like you to complete for me. So if you head on over to the polls section. And also just make sure, let me know that you can hear me fine. So head on over to the polls section and there are 2 polls. So the first one is, what type of location do you mostly and currently do your work? I think I've phrased that really terribly. So which type of location do you do your work? So either in office, hybrid, or do you do mostly work from home or remote working? And then also on a scale of 1 to 5, how do you feel your productivity is right now? That is a very loaded question. So what do you think? Where do you think you are in your productivity right now? What does your brain tell you? And let me know in the poll. And let's see who's here. Kari, hey Kari, in Canada. Nicole is from Cape Town, South Africa. Is it Michelle or Mitchell from Houston, Texas? Amazing. Lovely to see you all. And I'm glad that you can all hear me. So I'm going to get started straight away. Let's dig right into this. And I'm going to share my slides with you. So there you go. How to maximize your productivity while working from home. Can everybody see that? I hope so. So let's just do this here. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to let you in on is a little bit about me. So who am I? I'm Therese. I'm an executive coach. I'm an MBA graduate, author, speaker, and innovation facilitator. And a few years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was studying my MBA with my husband and at the same time had a baby. And we thought this was going to be okay. We thought that, we'd be able to continue along like nothing had ever changed when we had our son. And that was completely unrealistic. And I crashed and burned really, really quickly. But I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to give up on doing my MBA. I wanted to make sure that I was still being a great mom, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to still give to our family and manage our household. And I was also an entrepreneur at the same time. So I wanted to make sure that my business was succeeding. So I read and I read so many books on productivity. I wanted to discover exactly what it is that I needed to do in order to get it all done, to make sure that everything happened and I was still able to succeed in my goals. I was able to achieve the MBA, and I read all of the books and I came out on the other side and managed to complete my MBA with distinction, have a very happy, healthy son, had an amazingly successful business. And I want to be able to share with you and with everybody how you can have that too. So it is absolutely possible to have goals and to have a life that you want and to be able to manage all of that all at the same time and be able to succeed and still love your life without burning out and without feeling like you're going to topple over at any moment. So that's just a little bit about me. And just a quick little reminder, this webinar is going to take around 45 minutes. I think it'll be about 30 minutes of me teaching and sharing some really amazing tips with you, and then some time for Q&A afterwards. There will be a replay afterwards so that you can watch it again and take down notes. But like I mentioned, there will be Q&A at the end, but please feel free to add in some questions as we go along. Put your questions in the chat and I shall have a check on them every now and again and see if I can answer them for you immediately if it's relevant to that timing. And here we go. So remote work is stressful. Yes, it is so stressful. And that's completely normal. The research has actually shown that the brainwave patterns in our brains when we're doing remote work is much higher. The brainwave patterns show much more activity for overwork and for stress when we're doing remote work as opposed to in-person work. So remote work, lots of overwork, lots of concentration fatigue as well, because when we're doing remote work, very often we're on a screen most of the time, and that screen time actually creates this sustained concentration fatigue, which is not really helpful. And it also has a big drain on our energy as well. And also, there's so many distractions, tons and tons of distractions when you're working from home. You've got doorbells ringing and people making noise outside or construction happening outside. You've got your spouse who might be working from home. You've got kids who might be playing or from school. There are so many more distractions that you have to deal with, and so many types of distractions. And also the self-imposed distractions where you're thinking of all of the things that you have to do because you're in your home space. You're having to think about all of the admin work or cleaning or laundry that you've got to do. So instead of sitting down to do your deep work, your important work, you're thinking, well, maybe I should quickly put a load of laundry on, or maybe I should quickly unstack the dishwasher. So there's all of those types of distractions too. And a lot of households, particularly with kids, in fact, 54% of people who have, or parents and households who have kids at home, say they find it incredibly difficult to balance work and home life at the same time. And I'm sure that's still the case with people who don't have kids too. It's hard for us to focus on all of those distractions. And it's tough when there is just so much to do, so many other things to do. And I know that also for a lot of people, what they struggle with is motivating themselves to get out of work, to get out of bed every day so that they can go and work. You don't have the pull of actually getting dressed and going out, traveling to your place of work and seeing other people. You don't have that additional motivation to do that. So how do you motivate yourself when you're working from home? And there's also, a lot of clients have said to me that there's also this switching between roles. How do we switch between so many roles that we have to do constantly, going from parent to spouse to work colleague, back to pet owner, back to homeowner, and there's a leak happening. There's this constant switching that we have to do with our roles when we're working from home. Whereas if we're working in an office, very often we can close ourselves off to work issues and work challenges, and we can just focus on work. When you're working from home, it's all there, it's all available. And how do you manage that? How do you balance that? And then a lot of people have also mentioned to me that it's very difficult to also switch off when you're at home. So to switch off from doing work, the question is, do we work from home or do we live at work? And that's such a tough and burning question, because very often for so many of us, it feels like we never switch off from work. We're constantly in it and constantly focused on that work. And then you might feel like you're constantly stressed and frustrated by having this lack of time, because you're feeling like you're constantly working all of the time, either on your work or at home doing the admin tasks and the laundry and the dishwasher and the kids and the pets and the et cetera. You constantly feel like you're just working without any downtime, without any rest time. And when you do take the rest, it almost feels like, all you want to do is maybe veg in front of Netflix and not actually do anything that's really energizing for you and creative. So how do we overcome all of that? Well, I'm going to share with you 8 very simple tips. They're almost like principles that I use, and they're really helpful for any type of productivity, whether you're working from home or in an office, but we'll really focus on remote work and working from home in this webinar. So the first thing to do is plan you first. Plan you first. And we all think that when we have a job and someone's paying us for a job, that the first thing that we need to do is to prioritize that job. So we look at our calendar and we put in all of the times, all of the meetings, all of the things that we have to do in our calendar, all of the tasks, and we put all of that in there. And then suddenly we look and we're like, oh, okay, well, there's so much to do, and I'm just going to start and finish, and then the end of the day is gone. But if you are able to put you in first, then you've taken care of the most important priority, and that is you. Because if you don't have energy, if you don't have motivation, if you don't have excitement, then the work is not going to be of the best quality. It's not going to be of the best output. If you're able to plan you first, and what I mean by that is plan your self-care first, plan your breaks first, your lunch breaks, your tea breaks, a short walk. Plan the time that you finish. When are you going to finish work? When are you going to actually stop? What is that deadline? Make that decision for yourself. Because if you don't, then it's just going to spill over into all of the other time. And you're going to get to the end of the day and realize that you haven't had time to spend with your family, or you haven't had time to just take some time to meditate or exercise or do something that you really enjoy. I'm going to show you an example of how I do that. And hopefully you can see this. You might want to zoom in. I'm not sure if you can, but if you can't, maybe afterwards you can have a look at the replay and be able to zoom in and have a look. But essentially what I mean by planning you first is add in the time when you exercise. Actually put that into your calendar. Put all of those things in. Plan the time that you go for, for me, like a nail appointment or a massage. Plan your date nights if you have date nights with a spouse. Plan the time that you spend with your kids. I have Kai time. My son is called Kai, and I have Kai time every single day. Plan the time that you're spending time with your family, that you're focused on just that. If you're able to plan the you time, what happens is you actually become excited about doing the work, because you know that there's going to be a break and you're going to have a little bit of time just for you. But you have to do it intentionally. And you'll get a lot more enjoyment and motivation during your day when you know that there are those things that you get to look forward to during your day. I also want to just reiterate this. Make sure that you're planning your breaks. We take it for granted that we'll just take lunch or have breakfast or take a little short break. But if you don't actually put it in there, then you're not going to do it. So if you want to actually do it, make sure that you've planned it and you get it done. Number 2 is practice self-motivation. Let me just make sure. Any questions for now? Please pop them in the chats if you have any questions. Number 2, practice self-motivation. And what I mean by that is we've got to actively practice self-motivation. And working from home is the best opportunity to practice self-motivation. And you'll know this because, if you've previously gone to an office or been at worked at an office in the past, you'll know that it's so easy to get dressed up when you know you're going to an office. Or when you're at the office, it's so easy to, get your work done on time, or to get things delivered on time when your boss is hanging over your shoulder, or you see them there and you know that you've got a deadline to meet. There is that external motivation that helps us to deliver on certain things faster, that helps us to be more productive. But working from home is still actually, it's the best opportunity to practice self-motivation and to get really good at it. And this is it's an intrinsic type of motivation, which means that it's generated internally, and it's probably one of the most powerful types of motivation that you can practice and get really good at. So it's an opportunity, so use it. And working from home also means that you have this self-responsibility to get yourself up out of bed on time every day. You have the responsibility to do what you say you're going to do, whatever you've planned, to actually do and execute what you say you're going to do. The other thing that I want to just point out is practicing self-motivation. A really great example is to get dressed, like get dressed up every morning. We always think that we've got to get dressed up for other people, but I don't do it that way. I get dressed up for me. Get dressed up for you, because when you go into an office, or even if you're not going into an office, you go out for a networking dinner or a networking lunch, you get dressed up and you feel really good, you feel really fancy, you're wearing jewelry or perfume or aftershave or whatever it is, you got some really nice clothes on, you feel really good and you're excited to see people. It's the same when you get dressed up at home. When you get dressed up, you feel good. Get dressed for how you want to feel. You don't have to wait until you're going out. You can still get dressed up for you. And what I mean by that is we don't have to get dressed up for other people. If you're at home and working from home, get dressed up for you because of how you want to feel. Dress, choose the clothes, or and even it's not just about dressing, it's also about the environment. Create the environment and choose the clothes that make you feel inspired, that make you feel excited and what's the word? Powerful. Choose that for you. You're not doing it for anyone else. You're not doing your work for anybody else. You're doing it for you. So use this as an opportunity to practice that self-motivation for yourself. I mean, just as an aside, I put on perfume every day. Nobody smells it. It's just me. I think it smells amazing, but I love it. And it makes me feel good when I put on perfume every day. Can you smell? It smells divine. Okay, let's see who's have some questions here before I go on. Kari, I dress up for appointments fully, not just waist up. Absolutely. You've got to feel good everywhere. Like subconsciously, you'll know that if you're wearing shorts and comfy shoes or slippers, then you'll know subconsciously. So rather just get dressed up like you're going to an interview or going to do an amazing business deal. Okay, let's see what's next for you. Number 3, prioritize deep work. And deep work comes from this book by Cal Newport, and it's a really great book. I can definitely recommend it. But deep work is all about focusing on work that is important, work that is going to shift you to the next level in what it is that you want to achieve for your goals, etc. The opposite is shallow. It's called shallow work. So shallow work is very often things like replying to emails, spending lots of time on social media, especially if you're promoting your business on social media. It's all of the work that it's like admin work and it feels really nice to just get it out of the way, but it actually produces very little. There's actually no value or substance behind it. So deep work, on the other hand, is that work that is very often based on a long-term project, building up your website or creating amazing content, creating artistic works. I know Nicole is an artist, so I have to feature that. But deep work is that time that you spend that's actually going to move your business or your personal productivity much forward and allow you to achieve your goals and objectives much faster. The other thing about deep work to know is that it's the quality of work. You want to be able to create, productivity is not just about churning out things or ticking things off of a to-do list. It's about creating quality. And when we start to look at quality, we also want to look at what is your value? Where is the value that you specifically add? And if you're focusing time on just emails or things that can be easily duplicated, guess what? You're going to get really good at answering emails and doing the things that get easily duplicated. Do you want to be good at that? Or do you want to be good at something else, at a core skill, something that you can offer the world that nobody else can? That is what you've got to be focusing your time and attention on. The other thing about deep work is that, and many execs will tell me that they want to have a lot more time to think. And deep work is also that time when you can think and you can, consider new ideas and just be creative and try new things that might fail even. So execs often tell me they want to have a lot more time to think. And then interestingly, a lot of CEOs will tell me that they want their execs to have more time to do strategic thinking. So everybody wants more time to do more thinking and more strategic thinking. And why aren't we doing that? Well, there's a couple of things that are happening. The first one is admin work it gives us a dopamine kick. And it's really important to know this. So when you tick something off of your admin list, answering an email, doing an invoice, anything that is maybe considered shallow work, whenever you do that, perfecting a document that actually doesn't need to be perfected, whenever you're working and doing something like that, your brain gives you a dopamine kick and you feel good temporarily. But the problem is when we're working too much on that shallow work, getting those quick fix dopamine kicks at the end of the week, we don't feel good. We feel less productive. We feel like we haven't achieved what it is that we set out to achieve. We haven't actually moved the needle on our bigger goals and bigger projects. And the biggest opportunity that we all have in this world to do amazing things is to focus more on deep work, because that's when we'll be able to get good at that core skill. We'll be able to practice that. And that is the competitive advantage that we can create in the world. So make sure that you're focusing your time and attention on the things that are going to add value into the world. And make sure that whatever you're focusing on is the thing that you want to get really good at. The other thing that I want to just note about deep work is that you have to plan this time. You actually have to put this time in your calendar, actively, intentionally, deliberately. And sometimes it sounds hard to do this, but what I want to recommend is, if this is something new to you, is put deep work in your calendar, in your scheduling calendar, just for 30 minutes a day. Do it for 30 minutes a day. And how this works is you remove all notifications during that time. All distractions are gone. Close the door, all notifications are gone, and you just prioritize deep work. You just focus on the task at hand for 30 minutes and then take a break. And over time, you can build it up to an hour and maybe two individual hours every single day, up to maybe 4 hours is the goal. So start there, start somewhere, but prioritize deep work. I actually have a really amazing deep work tool that I use, and I'll check on the link for you at the end of this webinar. It's called Brain FM. So it's music, productivity music that's got special sound waves in it, and I love it. So whenever I'm focusing on deep work, I plug my headphones in, I listen to my productivity music. It drowns out every other sound and distraction. All of my notifications are off, and I can just focus on the task at hand. And it's amazing how quickly the time goes. You kind of get into that flow state, which is amazing. So I'll share that link with you at the end. Let's have a look before we move on. Adeline is from Alberton, Johannesburg. MacDivitt is in Pinetown, Durban. Awesome. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Okay. So that was number 3. And that's the book. So go and read that book if you haven't yet. Number 4, plan like you have a 3-day work week. Yeah. So this is a really great tip, because what this does is it forces your brain to think about time differently. It makes you really realize that, well, let me ask you this question. What if you only work 3 days a week? How would you structure your week differently if you worked 3 days a week? Share with me in the comments if you have any ideas. But the thing that we sometimes forget is because we're working from home, we don't need to do more work, and we don't need to work longer. In fact, we should probably be working less, because we have this opportunity to be more flexible with our time, to have fewer distractions, to not have all of this extra travel time, we can actually aim to have a 3-day work week if we wanted to. We don't have to rush. We don't have to cram in so much into our week. Let me just see what you've said. Kate says panic is the first thing that comes to mind when she thinks about planning her week like a 3-day work week. Kari, very focused, my phone is off and away and nothing can permeate my schedule. Yeah, amazing. So if you had a 3-day work week, apart from Kate who might panic, but that's absolutely okay, we can look at being a lot more focused on switching off all of those distractions, getting rid of anything that's going to keep us from deep work. And then what we would do is we would actually front load our week. We would move everything that's important to the front of our week, the beginning of our week. Any big projects, any deep work, we would send that to the front of our week, because we have a 3-day work week. The best thing to do is actually to start early. And that's what we should always be doing, is planning like we have a 3-day work week. Put everything that is important in the first 3 days. Everything else that's not important, that shallow work, goes in the last 2 days. Admin, catching up on, I don't know, coffee meeting, like when I say coffee meetings, there are networking meetings that are important. But what I mean is like coffee dates with girlfriends, maybe go in the last couple of days of the week. Think about your week as using that most important time. The first 3 days of your week are probably the most important days of your week, because that's when you have the most energy and that's when you have the most productivity. And if you can achieve all that you want to get done in those first 3 days, well, guess what? Then you've got another 2 days to do whatever you want, to think, to ideate, to play around, to, dabble and experiment with a few different things. Alrighty. Next, number 5, manage your realistic expectations. And I put that there because I want to take a gander and say most of the expectations that you might have on your to-do list right now are possibly not very realistic. And the funny thing that often happens for so many of us is that we get excited at the beginning of our week and we have this long to-do list and we're like, okay, I'm going to do that and that and that and that and that and that. And then we get frustrated when we get to the end of the week and we're feeling very unproductive because we haven't achieved most of what's on the to-do list. And I'm going to tell you there is a very simple reason why. And the reason why is you haven't, and I'm going to just guess here, you probably haven't been incredibly intentional and deliberate about when and how long you're going to do each task. Number 1. Number 2, you've probably given yourself very little time to achieve certain tasks. So you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to do that report and it's going to take me an hour. But when you actually sat down to do that report, it took you 3 hours. And our brains just work this way. This is completely normal. We are incredibly unrealistic with our time. We think that we can achieve so much in a specific day, but we're incredibly unrealistic with what we can actually achieve in a certain space of time. And we think that it's just going to get done. But if we're not planning it, if we're actually not intentionally putting it into our calendar and saying between 8 and 10, I'm going to work on that, and between 10 and 12, I'm going to work on that. If you're not doing that, then you have no idea of what you can actually achieve in a week. If you did that, if you time blocked your day and put everything into a calendar, showing exactly how much time you will spend on every single activity or every single task, at the end of that week, I can promise you, you will feel productive. You will not feel frustrated because you will have done every single thing that's there. And you can't possibly be frustrated and feel unproductive with yourself if you've managed to tick off every single thing that's been in your calendar, that's actually scheduled and time blocked into your calendar. But we just have this funny, unrealistic expectation that we're just going to achieve everything that's on that long to-do list. And that is not the case at all. So you've got to be managing your expectations all the time, making sure that you're not getting frustrated with yourself. Because here's the thing, you also get frustrated with yourself and you haven't actually planned it out properly. So, you're actually being really unfair on yourself. If you haven't planned it out properly and time blocked that time in, you can't be upset with yourself for not actually achieving it. I mean, that's just not fair, really. So we often do this, and this is completely normal, but manage your expectations. Make sure that you're not trying to achieve too much in the time that you have available. Be realistic. And also, if it's something that you don't know how to do or how long it will take, make sure you've got a bit of buffer time. If you want to limit your time, I mean, you get to decide, right? This is the most amazing thing about time. You get to decide how much time you're going to spend on something. But if you want to limit yourself, do that. Say, I'm only going to spend 2 hours of my time on this. This is how much it's worth to me. Or if you want to give yourself a bit of extra time to learn and to figure things out, then make sure you've added in that buffer time, but don't be unrealistic. Be realistic. And by being realistic, you're also being compassionate and kind to yourself, and making sure that at the end of the week, you're not going to be frustrated with yourself and you're not going to feel unproductive. Part of managing your expectations is also about managing others' expectations. So you've also got to realize that if you're going to time block your day and if you're going to have deep work time and you have colleagues that are relying on you, make sure that you have had a conversation with them and let them know when they can contact you or what you'll be doing. Number 6, take 100% responsibility for the meetings you attend. This is a good one, because I hear this all the time from my clients. They say, yeah, I had this meeting and somebody invited me to this meeting and I just had to go. And I'll say, well, why did you have to go? And they'll say, well, because they invited me to the meeting. And that is not a good reason. So meeting FOMO, fear of missing out, is real. It's a real thing. And I want you to be aware of it. Are you accepting meetings just because somebody's inviting you, or are you accepting them for the right reasons? Are you accepting meetings because you're feeling left out or you don't want to feel left out? You want to just know everything and gather all of the information? Because that is also coming from a place of insecurity, that you're not maybe, you feel like you're maybe not adding enough value. So you want to be seen and you want to be heard in many different meetings. But that's not necessary. Your time is incredibly, incredibly valuable. And you've got to take 100% responsibility of what you do with that time. So make sure that you're taking responsibility for all of the meetings that you attend. And before accepting any meeting, always understand the reason why you want to attend that meeting. And make sure that you know the objectives, you know what your role is in that meeting. It might sound cumbersome and it might sound like a bit of hard work to send an email back to someone and say, well, what is the objective of this meeting? But I can tell you it will save you so much time. You don't want to get into a meeting and then realize that you actually don't need to be there. The other thing to know about meetings is that mental fatigue in meetings, especially remote meetings, so either via Zoom or webinar, the mental fatigue starts to happen between 30 to 40 minutes, which is why this webinar is going to end very shortly, because I know that the mental fatigue is starting to set in. So always plan your meetings for 30 to 40 minutes. That is the best time to plan your meetings. And you can even request and say to someone, if they've scheduled a 1-hour meeting in your calendar, say to them, can we make that 40 minutes? Make sure that you've got that extra time as well after a meeting to take a break, to just take a mental break and to re-energize and then go back into that meeting or back into the next meeting. But know that meetings do, and especially when you're working online all of the time, this mental fatigue is a very real thing. So take 100% responsibility for the meetings that you attend. You also don't want to be in a meeting all throughout the day and never getting to that deep work. Number 7, create connection with your mind. Ooh, this sounds very... Ooh. So what I mean by this is, for so many of us, we're working from home and we don't get to see people all the time. But that doesn't mean that you can't feel connected. We create our connection with our thoughts. And connection, that is actually a feeling. Connection, when you feel connected to someone, is actually a feeling. And our feelings are all created by our thoughts, what we think. So no matter where you are, no matter if you're working from home or, you've previously been working in an office and now you're working from home, you can still feel connected to people. I mean, who of you have got friends and family who live elsewhere around the world? I bet you that even though they're living in other locations, you still feel connected to them. So connection is just a feeling. You don't have to see people face to face in order to feel connection. Some of the things that happen is that when we're thinking thoughts like, I don't get to see anybody. I don't get to see anybody, is sometimes it doesn't serve us. It doesn't help us, because then we feel disconnected from the world. And when we feel disconnected from the world, do you know what happens? We actually withdraw and we retract ourselves and we stop connecting. We stop showing up. And then we prove our thought right. We don't get to see anybody. We don't get to connect with anybody. But you get to decide with your thoughts how you connect with other people. Because we can remind ourselves that connection is just a feeling and we get to create it with our mind. We get to believe that we are connecting with other people. And one of the things that I believe is that working from home has created one of the best opportunities for us to be more connected with the world. I currently do coaching for a coaching team based in Canada. You will have seen Kari on the chat. She is from the Empowered team and she's based in Canada. And I work with that team, and we have coaches from all over the world working for her team, and we feel so connected. And that's what working from home has allowed us to do. So I want you to just, if you're feeling like you don't get to see anybody, I want you to realize that you can create that connection with your mind by believing that this is actually the best opportunity for you to be connected with so many more people in the world. And go out and join groups online, if it is, even if it is online, networking groups, and find that connection in that way, if that's what you want. Let's see. Kari says it's a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing. Connection and working with people all over the world is an amazing thing. And I believe that it's allowed my business to prosper and my growth to prosper. And I know that it can be exactly the same for you. So last but not least, number 8, remember that you don't have to do everything all at once. This is such a big one, and it's a big lesson that I've learned over the past few years. There is this thing that happens when we feel overwhelmed. Who has felt overwhelmed in their life? But there's this thing that I want you to remember. When you feel overwhelmed, when you feel maybe even panic, remember that you don't have to do everything at once. I want you to also remember and maybe even visualize that when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're like, I've got to do so many things, I want you to visualize that there's this bug happening in your brain, the neural pathways in your brain are short-circuiting and it's going bzz, bzz, and it's actually like a little error or a little bug in your brain. I mean, like a digital bug, not a insect type bug. But I want you to visualize this like short circuit in your brain going bzz, bzz. And that's exactly what's happening when we feel overwhelmed. It's our brain saying we've got to do everything all at once. And that's completely not true. We know that it's not true. All you need to do in those moments, especially when you're juggling so many roles and so many things, is to breathe. That is the first thing that you do, is you breathe. When we breathe, when we take long, deep breaths, breathing in and then breathing out, we're telling our brain that we don't need to run away, that we're safe, that we're okay. We just need to breathe to allow ourselves to allow that short circuit in our brain to just calm itself down, and then we can move rationally and do the next best thing. Once you've breathed, then write everything down on a piece of paper. You've got to get it out of your head. The more that we can get things out of our head and onto a piece of paper, which is why I always recommend get your to-do list onto a calendar. Put it somewhere visual so that you can see and know exactly when you're doing what. But you've got to get it out of your head and onto a piece of paper, and then we can start to work with it. When we put things on a piece of paper, that's when we can start to fix it and change it and work with it and come up with innovative solutions for it. When we keep it in our heads, it's going to continuously create this panic and overwhelm. And I definitely don't want that for you. So there you have it. Those are the 8 steps. I'll just run them through for you one more time. Number 1 was plan you first. Number 2, practice self-motivation. Number 3, prioritize deep work. Number 4, plan like you have a 3-day work week. Number 5, manage your realistic expectations. They are now going to be realistic from now on. Number 6, take 100% responsibility for the meetings that you attend. Number 7, create connection with your mind. And number 8, you remember that you don't have to do everything all at once. So before we hop onto Q&A, I'm actually going to let's take this off for a second. I'm actually going to quickly share some other things with you, some other really great and amazing things. Let's just make sure that I know what I'm doing here. Stop sharing. There you are. There I am. There we all are, everybody. Okay, Adeline, awesome session. Michael or Mitchell, please tell me how I need to spell that. What tool works best for you to keep your tasks? I use Google Calendar, and that's where I put all of my tasks into my calendar. And that's when I know exactly what I'm doing when. Google Calendar for the win, for sure. But you can use any calendaring tool. I think, whatever works for you. If you use Teams or Outlook, you can also use the Outlook calendar system there. Okay, so the first thing that I want to share with you is what's next? Like, what do we do now, right? And I have 2 amazing opportunities for you. The first one is to sign up. You can sign up for a free, and I'm going to give you a link right now. There it is. Book your free 30 minutes consultation with me, productivity consultation with me. You can sign up for a free 30-minute consultation with me. Thank you so much for being on this webinar with me. But we can talk about your specific work productivity, your personal productivity, and enhancing the productivity for your team. We can talk about all of those things. I work with clients from all over the world who've had amazing results in their productivity and their results. Because remember, if we're incredibly productive on the right important things, we will create more results in our life. And the amazing thing as well that I've been able to help my clients with is also how they feel. We always forget, actually, we just want to feel better. We want to feel amazing and less stressed, and we want to feel more fulfilled. And we want to also be able to be more present with our loved ones, with our families, with our wants and needs. So if you're truly committed to taking back control of your time and your work and your life, then book a free 30-minute consultation with me. Absolutely free, no obligation whatsoever. And I also want to just make mention, productivity is not just for people who have certain personality types, who are naturally organized. That's not the case at all. Productivity is something that we can all get better at, and we can all improve within our lives. We just need to be committed to it. We just need to know that that's what we want for ourselves. So just click the link to sign up and you'll have that free consultation with me. And then I want to share something else with you. There's so many free things that I want to share with you today. So just stick around. There's actually 3 free things. So stick around till the end, and then we'll also do some Q&A. The next amazing thing that I want to share with you is this. So Kari, who I work with at the Empowered Team, she is putting on an amazing leadership series. So if you are a leader or you're currently developing leaders, then this next free webinar in her series is definitely for you. Excuse me. You'll learn the levels of leadership depth. You'll learn the key to leading other people, the pattern that stops all leadership, and also how to move to the next leadership level. So if that's what you want, then click on the link and you'll be able to register for her leadership webinar. It's happening next week, Thursday, March 24th. It is at 4 p.m. GMT time, but the amazing thing is if you click that link, the time will automatically just show you the time in your specific time zone. And this leadership series is presented by my fellow executive coach, Kari Schneider. And Kari is the owner of and founder of the Empowered Team. And she has been a top coach to Olympians, pro athletes, and private clients for the past 2 decades. She's a certified life coach and an expert in physical optimization and mind mastery. And she's presented multiple research abstracts and at international conferences. She's taught university courses and coached countless athletes and executives to their next level mentally and physically in the past 25 years. So if that's for you, then click that link right now. And then I have one more amazing thing for you is I have my ebook. So when I think it's in handouts. So if you click on the handouts section, you'll be able to download it, also for free. My book is called How to Get It All Done, 20 Simple Strategies. After I finished my MBA, still with a young kid, I realized that I learned so much about productivity and I learned so much about how to get it all done, how to manage all of the things. So I wrote a book and I wrote a book in 2 months. I used everything that I learned to write this book, and I just realized that I had to get it all out of my head and share it with everyone. So if you need some other tips and tricks, then download the book. It's for free and use it for your advantage. Okay, so let's see. Who has any questions? Let's have a look at some of the chat. Debbie, I use Apple Reminders with Google Calendar. Yes, Apple Reminders is a great one too. Yeah, for sure. And Monica, excellent session, refreshingly helpful. Good, refreshingly helpful. I like that. And Debbie, love these 8 points to raise. Really great points. Amazing. Anybody have any questions? You're more than welcome to share a question that maybe you're currently experiencing or a challenge that you're currently experiencing, and I can quickly offer some tools or tips or words of encouragement. Let me know. And if you don't have any questions, I want you to write down or let me know, share in the comments, what was your favorite tip from today? What was the best one, the one that you think will be incredibly helpful for you going forward? Kari says, it must have been challenging to write a book with a child at home. Did you use a program to assist? No, I just, did I use a program? I just wrote, I started off with an outline and then I fleshed out the outline and then I added more in and then I edited it as I went along and then I put it all into another design platform, which I then exported to a PDF. But I just typed it in, I think it wasn't Word. I think it may have been Google Docs. 3-day work week for Monica, for sure. Best tip, prioritizing deep work and the difference between deep work and shallow work for Debbie. Amazing. Michael, 3-day work week as well. Planning a 3-day work week. Amazing. Best tip, taking responsibility for the meetings attended. Nicole wanted to book a free consultation, but the only times available are when I'm at my paying job. Oh dear. Well, Nicole, you've got my email address. Just email me and I will give you some other options. Edith, 3-day work week. Amazing. Starting a little earlier every day. Amazing. Great, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm so excited that you've spent time with me today and been here on the webinar. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me hello@theresereichenberg.com. If you go to my website, theresereichenberg.com, you can also book that free 30-minute consultation with me right there. I hope you had an amazing evening, morning, day. You're from all over the world, which is so amazing. And I will see you soon. Keep well. Bye.